The Gospel of Matthew, as much of the Bible is, in fact, most of the Bible is gender biased towards men, reflecting the role of women in society at that time. But biblical scholars now believe that women did play a role in Jesus' discipleship, including his mother, Mary, and Mary Magdalene. And someday, I hope, my wife Cynthia, who has been reading the Gnostic Gospels, will someday give us a presentation on that subject, the role of women. I hope she will. Will she? So on to the Beatitudes. As I said, it's chapter 5, verses 1 through 10, and the first two verses are kind of a introduction, but I think they're worth looking at, and I'll explain that in a minute. The first verse, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up to the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him. Now, why is that important to read that, to know that? Because at that time, that's the way teachers taught. Not like today. You didn't walk into a classroom full of people and hi, and everybody's screaming, and you find your way to your seat. The rabbi, the teacher, sat, and then the people came to the rabbi. So this is an expression of his authority. The second verse says, then he began to speak and taught them, saying, now, I had a lot of fun going up to different versions of the Bible. One of the versions says that he opened his mouth and taught them, saying. Now, what's that, a small difference? No, but think about it. If I said to you, Barack Obama went to the World Series and he threw out the first ball, you'd say, okay, good, it's really nice. But if I said to you, Barack Obama went to the World Series and he raised his arm and threw out the first ball, it would connote a reverential feeling. So different writers of the gospel kind of presented it in different ways. Now on to the Beatitudes, the heart of the matter. Matthew chapter 5, verse 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Who are the poor in spirit? Who was Jesus talking to? They were the downtrodden, the lowest level of society, the dejected, the demoralized, the despondent, those who had given up hope. I read a book called Political Teaching of Jesus by Tom Lindgren from Stanford University. And he recommended that when you review the Beatitudes, think about who was he not addressing? Who were the opposite of these people that he was talking about? And the opposite of the poor in spirit were the haughty, the self-righteous, the self-satisfied, the arrogant, the egomaniacal, the people who were focused on retaining their personal status and their possessions. Perhaps they were the Roman governors he was referring to or not referring to, and the appointees, the Sadducees, the tax collectors, that 3% layer. So what is he teaching? What does he mean by that? He's telling us that it's the poor in spirit who value most what the earth and life has to offer. That what they have comes not from privilege, but from their own effort. It's the poor in spirit who hold a better vision of the world. It's the poor in spirit who are motivated to improve life for others and make the world a better place. Jesus is describing a bottom-up world where society can be shaped not by the rich and powerful, but by the poor and needy. It is a message of hope for oppressed people everywhere. All you have to do is look what's going on in the Middle East right now to understand that, because that is coming from the bottom up, as it should be. If you take a look at the major social transformations in history, they are most often initiated by the downtrodden, the poor in spirit, those who use their energies to turn despair into hope, who focus on societal good rather than their personal gain, and who perhaps are prepared to sacrifice their lives for the greater good, as Jesus did. Matthew chapter 5, verse 4, the second beatitude. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Well, who are they? Who is he speaking to? Those who are suffering, those who freely acknowledge their feelings, who raise their internal and external voice, acknowledging their sadness, who know love of life, love of others, those who have a spiritual connection to the world. Or the opposite, the cold and aloof, those who feel no real bonds to the rest of humanity or to the planet Earth, those who torture and kill, fight wars of choice, who invade and occupy other countries for power and wealth, who abuse the creatures of this earth, who share this earth with us. So what does Jesus teach you here in this second beatitude? That it is those who mourn, that feel honestly and spiritually, that have the closest connection with humanity. That it is those who mourn, like the transcendentalists, that can feel the truth within. It is the brokenhearted who can lead with their hearts. It is they who mourn who best know and appreciate the meaning of joy. Matthew chapter 5, verse 5. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Jesus wasn't talking about people who are mousy. Not what it means today. People think of meek as somebody who cowers. Who are the meek? Those who live life in balance. The original Greek word, I won't try to pronounce it, Praus, meant the gentle, the simple, the humble. That's what it meant. Those who are patient and respectful of others, they're blessed. Those who are in control of their passions. The opposite, the impulsive. Those who are angry and intolerant, who are convinced of their own correctness, who are argumentative or proud or overbearing or forceful. I was telling my wife when I wrote that paragraph, I started thinking, oh my gosh, that's me. Yeah, but so maybe I need to have some thinking to do. What is Jesus teaching? I immediately thought of Grzywinski. I don't know if how many remember that movie way back when with the Philip Glass music. Grzywinski, a Hopi Indian word that's defined as follows: a crazy life, life in turmoil, life out of balance, life disintegrating, a state of life that calls for another way of living. Jesus was suggesting instead Grzywinski, or life in harmony. I thought of the Buddhist philosophy of maintaining a middle path, recognizing and living within the harmony of nature. Those are whom he considered blessed. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled, he said. Who are they? These words were spoken at a time when hunger and thirst were daily challenges for most people. Starvation and dehydration were commonplace. And Jesus was equating the desire for righteousness with the desire to survive in the strongest possible terms. These are the people who feel passionately about justice, equity, and fairness. They are willing to work as hard for justice as to put food on the table. Who feel the same about goodness as they do about food and drink. Or the opposites, the avaricious, the conspicuous consumers of wealth, and those who guard their position of privilege without regard to the needs of others. You can see why he had enemies in the Sadducees. So what is Jesus teaching? That your desire for righteousness should be as intense as your desire to survive. That the pursuit of righteousness is not something for a later day, but should always be an immediate concern. It should occupy your very being. That you should be willing to make sacrifices. That if we are to seek meaning in life, we will find it in the pursuit of righteousness. Not just for ourselves, but for all. Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. Blessed are the merciful, for they will receive mercy. Who's he talking to? Who are the merciful? The original word for mercy, believed to have been used in the original Aramaic, which is sort of like a Hebrew, is the word Chesed. Can't pronounce it. I tried to get some lessons today about how to pronounce a Hebrew word, but I couldn't get that one. It is basically